Yes, hello everybody, and welcome to In Your House, the retrospective series that I'm going to be doing as a watch along. I'm your host John Scott, and I want to thank everybody for tuning in the first of many, I would imagine. Kind of decided to do this pretty much because of the whole situation, isolation. I kind of thought In Your House kind of goes well, doesn't it? But actually, to be fair, it's not just a gimmick title that I was going on. The actual real reason for doing this is because I was actually quite a big fan of this as I was growing up, basically. I don't know what it was about the whole In Your House concept between 95 to sort of late 98, late 97 I suppose, early 98, I can't remember now, but there was just something about it. At the time, I believe I didn't have Sky between about 96 to about 98, so these In Your House pay-per-views, I wasn't watching them live, and I'd always managed to watch the sort of top five, as it were, the Rumble, WrestleMania, King of the Ring, SummerSlam and Survivor Series, no problem. Me and my friend kind of shared that experience together. We always managed to get a copy of it, no problems. But when it comes to the In Your House ones, it was a little bit more difficult, and so I ended up getting these In Your House as VHS tapes, basically. And I used to love collecting the whole VHS sort of tapes. Like back then, they just, I don't know what it is about like today's DVDs or documentaries or whatever, or digital copies, but there's something really uncreative about the whole design and stuff like that of the front. I was really kind of drawn to the whole box and the cover, and the VHS cover especially, and I used to love looking at the back and seeing what matches were on it, because this was a time, again, you couldn't just flip out your YouTube on your phone and read a review or something. This was like you had to go in there, try and think from memory who's gonna, what the matches would be like, and yeah, in the end, obviously, I probably got them all. In the end, probably used to cost quite a bit as well. It was probably about £14.95 even back then for a VHS tape like that. So I used to get mine a lot from Woolworths and Alders, believe it or not. They were like the two go places. But the reason I've started with In Your House 12, It's Time, as it's taglined here, the match between Bret Hart and Sycho Sid. The reason I've gone with this is personal, selfish reasons. This was the first In Your House tape that I ever actually bought. So the rest of them I'd had to kind of conjure up over a certain amount of time. But I don't know why I ended up starting with this one out of all of them. But this was the one that I got. And it might have been because it was like the latest one at the time, but I really obviously needed to go backwards and sift through everything. But yeah, there's something very nostalgic about watching this one for the first time in a long time, to be honest with you. I've actually still somewhere in my man cave, I believe that's where it is anyway, I believe that I have this VHS. I am going to try and find it, locate it, and I'm going to try and post a photo with me with it, hopefully before this goes out, just to show you guys. But yeah, it's that's what it was all about. So anyway, in this series, I'm going to be picking matches, as many matches that I think are worth doing, maybe a little bit more obscure kind of matches. Obviously, it's worth pointing out WWE, about 3-4 years ago, they released a documentary that you might be able to find on the network, and it was hosted by Todd Pettengill, and I think they did like it was the best of. So it wasn't really a documentary; it was more of like putting matches together. So I'm going to try to not I don't want to. I don't want to mirror the same kind of matches. I want to do like different ones, but I know that some will definitely cross over just because you can't get away from them. But there are some real gems. If you go and have a look on Wikipedia and you look down WWE in your house, you'll see there's some real hidden gems in there. So in case I miss any, because I'm going to be recording these on a weekly basis, so I'm not going to can them all. So I'm always going to receive your emails. So if you've got any suggestions for a recommendation, or maybe there's something that, you know, is nostalgic to you, please email me, email@wrestleline.co.uk, and I will, you know, sip it out and we'll do it if it's any good. So anyway, as per usual with these watch-alongs, I encourage you to fire up your WWE Network. You want to find In Your House 12, and it's called It's Time. We'll get more into that title once we press play. Now, then you want to find the time of 1 hour, 19 minutes and 44 seconds. So that's 1 hour, 19 minutes, 44 seconds. Now, while you guys find that, hit the pause button and come back to me, because on the count of one, we are going to both hit play with this. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. And here we go. Now you should, if it all works out for you, get a backstage interview with Bret the Hitman Hart. As well, most people will know this guy as Michael P.S. Hayes. However, in this time and era, Michael P.S. Hayes was no more, and Doc Hendricks was born. He was taking on this new character who basically interviews wrestlers backstage for the better part, and we can see something going on. Now, I remember this being quite massive in my childhood. Like, this was such a big deal that this happened. Like, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Shawn Michaels was doing the interview with Doc Hendricks, and Sid just comes along, and this kind of got like massive heat, and then you see Sid taking down Bret. Sorry, Shawn now. And yeah, so it was fascinating back then to get that kind of take on professional wrestling. I guess it was definitely a different type of vibe, and I think you'll see that over the sort of course of this series, how different the WWE promotion was to where it's at now. As we see Bret Hart. Now, Bret Hart is the challenger. He's going in this because he wants to get to WrestleMania, basically. But at the finish of his interview, he's basically talking about the fact that he's sick to death of Shawn Michaels, because he obviously the year before this he came off that Iron Man match, and it's been a little bit of rivalry. And as he's doing the interview there, Shawn Michaels' music hits, and Shawn is coming out to do, as he would often do around this time, special guest commentator, because of course here he was he really injured at this time? We'll never know. The rumour was that he might have been playing on it a little bit, but here he is, Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid. Interesting times for him as well here. And so obviously you're probably wondering why on earth this is called It's Time, because obviously if you know about Vader, that is his tagline. Well, the story goes that Vader was going to be in the role of Sid. However, because of the man we're seeing now, Shawn Michaels, relationship and how that went quite sour with Vader. I always remember this bit, by the way, this girl like behind Shawn here, absolutely fascinated, mesmerised almost by Shawn Michaels, wanted that photo. Also, I'm wondering how many times we're going to see the number one fan, by the way. He is at like all the shows. Yeah, look, she's trying to get his photo, trying to get his attention. It's just not working, is it? Anyway, yeah, so that is why they left it as It's Time. So it kind of made no sense, and then they tried to get things over it. Oh man, look at that. She couldn't get the rose to him. It's very different times, eh? So obviously you can already probably tell if you've just I mean, the set is not sort of immaculate here. In Your House was basically what you'd call like the B-list show. I mean, it really was. But like I say, they did pick up some gems. I really liked it. I don't know why, but there's something about it that I think just really appeals to me. I don't know, but whenever I see the logo or people talk about In Your House, I just get like a real warmth feeling about it. And yeah, like this was my first In Your House VHS that I owned. I used to get these home, and obviously I'd watch it from the very beginning. There used to be like a little free for all match, they used to call it at the beginning, which was basically like a kick-off show match, but a lot different to how they are now. They certainly don't have panels back then. Always a key spot here, who was going to get the glasses. But yeah, I used to watch it like all the way through, just like really anticipating the main event, because back here, when cards were put together, wrestling was pretty much about the main event. You didn't have all these like 4 or 5 main events in one show. This was all mainly centered around the main event. So through the course of the pay-per-view, it was always, you'd always hear the commentators talking about the main event, and it kind of built and built and built. So it was a completely different way of promoting a WWE card to what it is now. You very rarely will get a crossover where that happens. There's just so much going on in today's market that it just would not work out. I mean, it really wouldn't. It's just such a completely different animal compared to what it was like here. And here we see, probably at this time, somebody that made a real impression of me when I was younger, because he had come off of, just to give you a flavour of where we are, because when I do these In Your Houses, I am going to jump all over. Hence we're starting at 12 and not 1. But Sid had basically come off this huge match at Madison Square Garden facing Shawn Michaels, and he was victorious. He won the WWF title, and at this point it's arguable to say that Sid was becoming quite a draw even for the fans. Like, fans seemed to dig this guy. I don't know if it was his intensity, but you can see there fans were really drawn to Sid, and I think it all stemmed from the whole MSG thing with Shawn Michaels, where basically New York decided they'd had enough of Shawn Michaels, and it was all about Sid. And this part here, this was like, I know it looks probably really tacky and stupid now, but this was a massive thing. This whole Sid sign that came up was just like really iconic. And he's one of the guys, you know, that I think he's forgotten. Like, I know he's come back now and then, but I really think that he gets overlooked, considering he main evented 2 WrestleManias. You know, he was quite a big deal for me. And at this point, he was the guy. I mean, he really was chosen. A lot of people think he's a transitional champion, but I put him a lot more higher than that. Now, I can't remember anything about this match, so this could be anything. I mean, the way you remember things when you're a kid to what they turn out now is very, very different. As you see, Shawn Michaels out there, he's kind of playing into this a bit. Obviously, he's supposedly got no favouritism, which he kind of doesn't on paper. Like, you know, they both had issues with him, obviously. As we see now, Bret laying it in thick. Obviously, everybody will know in this podcast that I'm the biggest Bret Hart fan, so I'm guessing. But that's not the reason I picked this. Like I said, the reason I picked this is because this was the